Hi, it's Danny again. Today, I will be giving you a presentation that is a review of the material we've covered in the last 2 weeks or so. We've done this before, but let me just remind you how this will work. So you'll watch this presentation, and then when we get together, we're going to play a game as a group in the style of a game show. The purpose will be to test you guys and see how much of this stuff you're remembering and to challenge you to do your best. So in order to do your best, you may go back and rewatch parts or all of some of the videos that I'm going to be recapping during this presentation. Project Search UTMC Remote Learning Review Session 4, what we have learned during the last 2 weeks. I talked about the procedures you typically will need to follow in order to request time off from work. I went into the fact that there are a limited number of days employees can use for vacation and sick time each year. All employers have a procedure their employees must follow in order to use time off. Generally, a 2-week notice is required for time off requests. I talked about violence and aggressive behavior and the fact that those things are prohibited in all workplaces and at Project Search. Punching, pushing, biting, kicking, all of those things are going to be considered violent behavior and will get you fired right away from a job, and you will be dismissed permanently from Project Search if you engage in any of those things. And I also talked about the fact that a violent action can get you fired even if no one gets hurt, and even if your violence is directed toward an object like a wall, so punching or kicking a wall or a door or a desk or anything in that work environment. Any kind of action like that that's violent, it's going to lead to termination. I talked about theft. The fact is that theft is something that if you engage in it, you are going to lose your job. If you commit theft at Project Search, you will be dismissed right away. Now, theft here is going to include any type of theft, that is stealing from your employer, whether it's equipment or supplies, or stealing from your coworkers, their personal possessions. If you steal something from your employer that's of a high dollar value, say a computer component, a tablet computer, something like that, you can end up with criminal consequences, criminal charges. You may have to pay fines of up to $5,000, and you could even spend time in prison. So theft is a very serious thing that you need to avoid. I talked also about destruction of property. Destruction of property will lead to termination when committed intentionally or negligently. So intentional means on purpose, and negligent means that the destruction was committed due to a lack of the proper precautions and or an attempt to cut corners and avoid the effort required to perform tasks the right way. I also mentioned that if you break something while in the midst of horseplay or goofing off, not using equipment properly to either entertain yourself or others, and then it gets broken, that's going to be considered negligence. However, accidents can happen. And when an accident happens, what that means is that the worker is making a serious attempt to do their task. They're making a serious effort to use the equipment properly, and somehow or another, a mistake happens and something is accidentally broken. Now, usually, if you have an accident, genuine accident like that, then you won't be penalized. we covered sexually inappropriate behavior. Now, that includes engaging in sexual activities, seeking sexual activity from a coworker, sexual harassment, and sexually explicit language, such as dirty jokes. So all of these can lead to termination from a job and will lead to permanent dismissal from Project Surge. So sexually inappropriate behavior is something that we take seriously and that you've got to avoid. And remember that there's a place for sex, and that is not the workplace, and it is not Project Surge. Another thing we've covered recently was conversation tips. So we talked about the fact that your conversations will go better if you can listen more and talk less. And that if you show an interest in the person you're speaking with, your conversation will go better. And always remember that your conversation is a give and take situation, meaning that each person involved is going to give, as in make statements and ask questions, and then wait their turn while other people make statements and ask questions. And then listen actively. So that means that you're going to give eye contact, face the person who's speaking, give verbal feedback, nod your head, and things like that to show the person that you're tuned in. And then you're going to avoid correcting coworkers during conversations. You don't want to be a know-it-all, so to speak, or a Mr. or Mrs. Right, or want to argue all the time. If you do that, then people won't want to talk to you very much. And more recently, we talked about how to deal with feelings of frustration, anxiety, and even anger at work. And so we had several tips. There was counting breaths or calming breaths, which are pretty simple to do, and you can do them basically anywhere you are without any kind of tools or equipment. And then focusing on your present task and not obsessing about what's happened before or what's going to happen in the future. Using a stress ball or other object that you can squeeze or manipulate, that can help you to relieve stress and focus on your task. And then using your break times and really directing your break times so that you are making sure to self-calm during those breaks. And then, of course, there was sugar and the damage it does. And in that presentation, I presented you with some kind of scary facts about what happens when we consume too much sugar. So sugar is found in a lot of foods, but some foods really pack the sugar in. They add sugar to it. And there's a reason for that. It makes it addictive. So when you consume sugar, it's a lot like if you were to take some kind of drug, like say nicotine that's in tobacco products. It makes it very difficult then to stop consuming it. Your body becomes addicted to it. It also, consuming too much sugar can lead to very serious health problems like diabetes, heart disease, obesity, and tooth decay. I also advised everyone that you should start reading nutrition labels to discover the sugar content of the foods you eat and try to find options that are low in sugar. If you have any trouble reading the nutrition labels, find someone you know who can help you with these sorts of things and find out how much sugar is in the food you're eating. And that way you can try to find foods that are going to have less sugar and you can avoid some of these risks that I talked about. Well, that wraps it up. Again, you can go back and watch any of those videos that I touched on in this presentation. They're all still on the YouTube channel. Should be pretty easy to find those. And get ready. I hope you do really well in our game show style quiz game review session. Be careful out there.
Project Surge.